Liverpool, perched on England's northwest coast, where the River Mersey meets the Irish Sea, was one of the world's most powerful cities in the early 1800s. This booming port of 78,000 people grew rich on cotton, tobacco, and sugar. Wealth that built grand Georgian buildings, elegant squares, and cultural institutions, but left most residents struggling in crowded, disease-ridden neighborhoods choked with horse manure and cold smoke. Today, advanced AI technology allows us to transform centuries-old engravings and paintings into photorealistic recreations, bringing these lost streets back to life. Join me as we step into the Liverpool our ancestors once knew. The Liverpool Town Hall was the very heart of Liverpool. A dazzling symbol of the town's massive wealth, the town hall had risen from tragedy, having been rebuilt after a devastating fire in 1795. Designed largely by John Wood the Elder, its completion proved that Liverpool was a major global player. In this era, it was the center of all civic and social power. While the council met downstairs, the grand ballrooms upstairs hosted the powerful merchants and dignitaries who governed the town's trade. Look up, high above the dome stands the statue of Minerva, the Roman goddess of war and wisdom. She was also the goddess of commerce and the arts, a perfect guardian for this powerful port. Today, the council chamber still hosts local government, and the Lord Mayor uses it as their official base for civic duties. Its magnificent Georgian rooms now host public tours, weddings, and official receptions. For centuries, sailors returning home knew they'd reached Liverpool when they glimpsed this spire rising above the Murray. Our Lady in St. Nicholas, the sailors' church, had watched over the waterfront since medieval times. That elegant spire you see was added in 1746, specifically as a navigation marker for ships entering port. At high tide, the river would lap right against the churchyard walls. This engraving captures Liverpool in 1808, just 2 years before disaster struck. On a Sunday morning in February 1810, as bells rang and families gathered for service, the spire suddenly collapsed into the nave below, killing 25 people, most of them children, from the local charity school. The tragedy shocked the city, but Liverpool rebuilt as it always did. St. John's Market, opened in 1822, was where everyday Liverpool came to shop. Built on the site of the former St. John's churchyard, this iron column hall brought order to the city's chaotic street markets, offering shelter and theoretically better hygiene for hundreds of vendors selling meat, fish, vegetables, and household goods. The cast iron structure was cutting-edge Victorian engineering, creating a vast open space where Liverpool's population gathered daily. Here, wealthy housekeepers rubbed shoulders with working families scraping together pennies for dinner, all navigating the noise, smells, and bustle of Victorian market life. The floor was perpetually damp with crushed vegetables and spilled liquids. The air thick with the smell of fish and unwashed bodies and pickpockets worked the crowds. But St. John's Market was essential. The place where a city of over 100,000 fed itself before the age of supermarkets. The original building was demolished in 1964, replaced by a shopping center, later demolished in 2016. This unassuming building represented revolutionary compassion. Founded by Edward Rushton, a blind poet and abolitionist who'd lost his sight caring for enslaved Africans aboard a ship. The School for the Indigent Blind was Britain's first specialist school for blind children. Here, in a purpose-built facility that opened in 1800, blind students learned basket weaving, brush making, and music, gaining skills that could sustain them rather than condemning them to begging. The adjacent windmill was one of 74 windmills that dotted the city between medieval times and the industrial age. Rushton's vision was simple but radical. Blind children deserved education and dignity, not pity. The school's strict schedule, rising at 6:30 a.m., in bed by 9:30 p.m., learning trades by touch, transformed lives. When Lime Street Station expanded in the 1850s, the building was demolished, but Rushton's legacy endures in what's now the Royal School for the Blind, still operating today. St. Anne's Church stood as a quiet refuge in Liverpool's rapidly expanding cityscape. Built to serve the growing population, churches like this one provided not just spiritual guidance, but also vital social services, registering births, marriages, and deaths, running charity schools, and offering poor relief. The churchyard would have been crowded with graves as urban burial grounds struggled to keep pace with Liverpool's booming population. Liverpool's rapid industrialization was beginning to strain these traditional parish structures. The same coal that powered the city's prosperity also slightly blackened the church's stonework. You can see decades of soot accumulation on its walls. Within a few generations, many of Liverpool's 18th century churches would be demolished or rebuilt as the city continued its relentless expansion, making way for warehouses, railways, and the infrastructure of Victorian commerce. The Lyceum was Liverpool's temple of learning, a place where merchants enriched by trade could reinvent themselves as scholars and gentlemen. Built in 1802 to house England's first subscription library, founded back in 1758 by a small literary club, the building offered escape from the rowdy coffeehouses where business was conducted amid tobacco smoke and deal-making. Inside its magnificent circular library, over 10,000 books lined the walls beneath a soaring dome, while the newsroom provided access to newspapers from London, Ireland, and the provinces. For an annual subscription, members could sip coffee in elegant surroundings and discuss philosophy beneath busts of Shakespeare, Milton, and Homer. It was Liverpool's attempt to prove it was more than just a port, that commercial success could coexist with intellectual refinement. Today, the Grade II listed building survives on bold street used for many different purposes, but it's now home to a miniature golf and bar venue having narrowly escaped demolition in the 1970s, thanks to a public campaign to save this architectural treasure. In 1825, Gallows Mills on London Road stood at Liverpool's edge, where city ended and countryside began. These windmills, grinding grain for Liverpool's growing population, bore a grim name. Nearby stood the gallows where public executions took place, including 4 Scottish rebels hanged in 1715. The scene captured here, cattle grazing peacefully, windmills turning in the breeze, unpaved roads and scattered cottages, was Liverpool's last gasp of rural life before urbanization consumed everything. Within decades, this pastoral landscape would vanish beneath streets, houses, and industry as Liverpool's population exploded. The windmills themselves wouldn't survive. Most of Liverpool's 74 windmills were demolished by the late 1800s as steam power and railways made them obsolete. Today, London Road is a busy urban thoroughfare, and nothing remains of Gallows Mills except historical images like this one. Lime Street Station opened in 1836, brought the railway age to Liverpool's doorstep. This magnificent neoclassical building served as the city centre terminus of the Liverpool and Manchester Railway, the world's first intercity passenger line. The railway had proven spectacularly successful, carrying hundreds of thousands annually and slashing journey times between Liverpool and Manchester from 4 hours by coach to just 90 minutes by train. This building represented more than a station. It was a declaration that Liverpool, already master of the seas, would lead Britain into the railway age. The original structure was demolished in 1849 and replaced by a larger station. But this first Lime Street marked the moment when steam and iron began their conquest of distance, forever changing how people and goods moved across Britain and the world. This was just a snapshot of Liverpool in the early 1800s. There is so much more to see. So if you enjoyed this step back in time, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss where we're going next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the past.